Hey everybody, Kane here, and welcome to another video of Conquest. In this one, we are going to talk about Dual Tower and a little bit on the meta that was in that Dual Tower, or at the very least for majority of it. So I finished pretty much exact same points as I did before, but if I was able to play on Tuesday, uh, in which I usually almost work, I would have reached 4,500. Well, because plenty of people that I did manage to beat, they did reach those ranks, and then there is also plenty of other guys as well. But the thing is, majority of what the PvP really becomes, right, is pretty much like the person who enters the battle first and casts an aerial ability, like 75% of the time they will win, especially if it's burst versus burst. If it's burst versus stall, it's not as crucial if you have proper setups, but burst versus burst, I just lose majority of burst versus burst battles, and that's just funny to me. Because I enter the battle, and the enemy had already casted the Avril's Blizzard, and that's pretty much what the PvP tends to be. So what happens is the last couple of features overraised this particular value to such insane extents that this hero procs the Arcanate in its full potential all the time. So what happens is you don't necessarily require the tier 14, say, awakened wave power or stuff like that, because this value is already enough for the Avril to proc the full damage from Arcanate. Now, if the value is too low, then the HP that the army has, you're barely gonna see the difference in damage. But if the attack value is higher than that of the HP value, and of course all the prism buffs and bonuses that you can have on that front line, this attack value, or rather attack value buffing this percent damage, is just gonna be insane. In which case, say 470 million attack is already sufficient, even attacking, say, 30 million skeletons, in which I would have if I maxed out the Covenant, but I swapped to archers. So that would be enough, which then leads, well, if I don't require to use Awaken Wave Power on Avril to do that amount of damage, you have quite a few prisms to choose from. So one of them can be Shadow Soul, right? So this will further improve Avril's DPS. However, it does not necessarily buff your other heroes. So for example, this value will not be raised very high. And this value is only just helping mages. And now you have Drak, you have Lee, and pretty much top 3 DPS all the time is pretty much Avril, Drak, and Lee. So you would be solely buffing just one hero, one real DPS, and leave out 2 others, which kind of does not make it that good. So aside from that, then you have another, which is the Glorious Soul, right? So this now will leave out the Avril, and instead Drak and Lee will be able to do more. But even that, this value does not raise that much. So you have another, which only is viable if you have a few prisms, right? Like a few awakened prisms. So this particular value more than doubles if you have it awakened. I don't necessarily understand why this happens, but as you can see, it goes from 0.7%, it jumps to 1.6. So that's more than double than what you see here. Now you have 0.6 and it goes to 1.2, right? So that one more than double. So if you get a few awakened prisms, you might as well do this because it also includes your dragon. So your dragon's going to be able to survive more. If you use this on the burst side, it's going to help out your burst side a little bit more as well. And just overall, a pretty decent prism there is. But likely you would want to do that on your, I don't know, 4th, 5th, or 6th awakened prism. It's just so that I could note for you guys. But I've tested on a couple of 4,600 plus accounts, and everybody said good things about it. And that is Heroic Alliance. So what happens is you're buffing all of your friendly units with attack and HP. And as said multiple times in multiple videos, prisms are pretty OP. And pretty much raising these values and raising these values improves all of your other heroes to be able to survive longer. If their prism array bonuses don't drop, or they are not as skilled like quickly, they're able to survive like 1 second, 2 seconds, maybe more. That's additional 1 or 2 seconds that would be proccing insane amounts of damage from your average Arcanate, from Drac, from Lee, and pretty much that is what PvP has become. There is not that much skill involved in it anymore. It's just efficiency in terms of setting everything up, setting artifacts, equipment, prisms, placements, all of that kind of stuff. And the person who casts like the abilities first and in somewhat proper places, it's pretty much a win right there. You can beat people even 10 million core above you right now. So I don't personally really like this particular meta. I mean, I like it if I'm playing on iOS because I can, do the same thing I kind of complained about earlier of this video. So hopefully when my and if, well, my account gets swapped to iOS, I mean, it's gonna be a lot of fun, but the people on the receiving end is not really having that much fun. Let me just point that out. It's not because, like, hey, I would be a lot better at the game, like, I would not get good, or what people, love to say. It's because the differences in terms of, like, many Androids and the differences of iOS gameplay is just insane. It's insane. So yeah, that would be a pretty decent change. But yeah, honestly, I don't necessarily like the meta. And what the meta will become is gonna be even worse. Right? Because what they're gonna do is they're gonna add another confidential book, and it's gonna have the exact same thing as here, but damage dealt to heroes will be increased by 22%, meaning heroes will further drop faster from the Arcanate. And then Decipher 12, all units decrease enemies' resistance by 40%. So further reducing resistances by 40%. So basically, the people casting Arcanate now will even have bigger consequences for the one that does not in the very beginning, to the point like you would not even require to cast an ice wall before that or something. You just cast it and it's pretty much like, done, right? Like you just cast Avril most of the time. So to be honest, I'm not really fond of this meta. I'm not really particularly good with this meta. It's just most of the skill, most of the strategy, say, has been taken away from this game. And for some reason, the developers don't want even a single draw anymore. Like, if a battle would end in a single draw, it's like the end of the world, right? It's not the end of the world. You should remove draws when it happens like 5, 10 times in a row, but not make a game literally turn into like 20-second battles for people with, say, better phones just literally smack everyone else around because they loaded in half a second before you. Or at the very least, like, change how PvP works. So for example, if you go into the battle, first 5 seconds the army just dukes it out, right? So that would add a whole variety of different formations. Likely you would require front lines even in the burst side and stuff like that, and everybody would be loaded into the battle. But if I loaded into the battle with an Arcanate with such insane buffs, bonuses, and insane damage just already on me. But like there is no strategy involved anymore. It's pretty much just people who cast the ability first wins. Personally, I would really want that change. I really would want that change. Before, it wasn't as cruel or wasn't as crucial to really cast Avril first. Now it's insane. It's really insane. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, that was my opinion. A little bit of a, I guess, a rant, but that is what the PvP has become. Everybody whom I changed their formations, I told to cast, they said exact same thing. And for them, it's fun. Quite a few of them are also iOS, so it's extremely fun. But for people like myself who are on Androids, it's not particularly fun when facing burst versus burst, but yeah. Hopefully you learned something new. If you did, do hit that subscribe button. It would help me out a lot. As well as if you would wish to support me more than just watching my videos, I have made a Patreon page where you would be able to do just that. In return, I would be able to help you out more individually in terms of events, PvP formations, and stuff like that. As well as I would like to thank all of my patrons for the support. I really, really appreciate it for your subscriptions. Thank you guys so much. Thanks for watching. Take care and stay safe out there.